What's up, folks? David here, TexasHornsFans.com, continuing the 2021 position previews and breakdowns. We're going back on the defense this time for the linebackers, the LBs. Back in the spring, I said that I thought that this group was the weakest group, position group on the team. I still feel that way, but I'm a lot more excited about this group as we get into fall practice here than I was back in the spring. So hope you enjoy the video. Give it a like. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it out if you're listening on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe there as well. If you're not on the podcast yet, just check the description and there'll be a link on there to subscribe to the podcast if you just want to listen. But I appreciate it. I really hope you enjoy the video. Let's get into it. All right, so I think the place to start with the linebacker group is obviously with the loss of Joseph Ossai to the NFL. It definitely helps to try to figure out, where this thing stands in terms of the holes that are going to need to be filled, what's lost in just kind of a sense of production, and who is going to step up, right? Who's going to be kind of the number one guy in the position group, and who's going to fill those holes. But I want to look at the defensive stats from last year. So this is sorted by total tackles. So another big loss right there in the middle, Juwan Mitchell. Juwan Mitchell has kind of done a little dance over the past, couple years as his time in Texas as a transfer, of entering the transfer portal, coming back, and then transferring again. So he's officially gone now, but, as much as he brought to the table as a run defender, I definitely think that he struggled a ton in the past, especially getting caught up there in the middle in no man's land. He was really lost a lot, but I thought he was a phenomenal run defender. He was great at just coming up to the line of scrimmage and just blasting people. So you still lose. You're losing 62 total tackles, 4.5 for loss from Mitchell. Overshown returns, we'll talk about him here in a minute. And then you also lose your third leading tackler in Ossai with 55 total tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, including 5.5 sacks. He also had 2 pass defenses and 3 forced fumbles. So definitely a lot of production lost, more than 110 total tackles lost. 20 tackles for loss that are kind of gone. So those are big holes to fill, no doubt. And a big part of the reason why back in the spring I thought that this group was the weakest position group on the team was, number one, those 2 big losses just in production in Mitchell and Ossai, and then just the incredible lack of depth. Now, the depth part of the problem has been solved somewhat since early spring practice. So let me put up the projected starters here. These are my projected starters and then the key reserves. I don't have the reserves tagged to any particular position. Now, I'm sticking with the kind of traditional 3 linebackers here as we had last year, with a middle linebacker, a weak side linebacker, and then that jack position that was Joseph Ossai's position, that was kind of the hybrid defensive end outside linebacker. So here's who I'm looking at. It seems that Ray Thornton, the transfer from LSU, is an absolute lock to start at the jack position. He looked great through the spring. He looked great in the spring game. He even kind of looks like Joseph Ossai. He's wearing Joseph Ossai's number, And he's got kind of the same type of playing style, same type of kind of body style with those long arms. Now, hearing from some of the players at press conferences and listening to Keandre Colburn at Big 12 Media Days, they all say that Thornton has just stepped in to be an immediate leader. Obviously, he was on a national championship team with LSU, and just they talk a lot about how he's brought that mentality to the team of understanding what it takes to accomplish, a task like that, which that's invaluable outside of his potential production on the field. So he looks like to be a lock. Coburn also said that he was just an insanely hard worker. He's putting in like more hours than everybody, and he's constantly asking, other players, hey, who wants to go put in some more reps? Who wants to go put in some more work? So if that type of championship mentality, spills over into this group, that's fantastic. Wish we wouldn't have to rely on a transfer to fill Joseph Osai's spot, but that looks like what we have here. So really, really excited about Ray Thornton. And a lot of analysts who looked at him coming from LSU talked a lot about how they felt like that he was used too much on the inside, where he's more of a kind of a longer outside pass rushing type of player. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of his production, that he was maybe a little bit out of place at LSU. And then middle linebacker, I've got David Benda here. I believe he's going to be classified as a sophomore. And again, on some of the other videos, I get confused a little bit about last year not counting toward eligibility. So how these guys are classified right now, we'll see. A lot of good praise coming from the other players about David Benda and how he's just stepped up to really be all over the field. I've heard from multiple players, Deshaun Jameson, Overshone, talk about how he, in practice, is just always around the ball. So that's going to be cool to see. He's been hot and cold, in my opinion, up until now. He has absolutely popped off your TV screen at times, and at other times he seems to disappear for a couple games. So if he steps up and fills in Jawan Mitchell's spot, that's going to be great. Obviously, the middle linebacker spot has got to hold the run. That's job number one. And then not get caught, in the zones, in any type of zone coverages, and not getting caught in no man's land, kind of there in the middle of the field. Weakside, Will, linebacker, and again, I don't know if PK's defense is going to use the same terminology, or how much are we actually going to see three traditional linebackers on the field versus maybe four. But Overshone, to me, obviously, is the top returning starter. I thought last year, moving from safety to linebacker during an offseason, again, when you didn't have a spring, you didn't have a normal summer offseason workout, I thought he made the transition incredibly well. He recently said, I believe a couple days ago from recording this video, about that transition last year and how he feels like this year is totally different, just in terms of what he understands and his comfort level of playing outside linebacker versus safety. We saw Overshone make some terrific plays last year. He had that great solo sack against West Virginia, where he just blasted through the middle of the line and got a sack. He also was instrumental in causing the game-ending sack against Oklahoma State, where Osai came around the side and chased down Spencer Sanders. Osai gets the highlight reel for that, but if you go back and watch that play, Overshone's one of the ones that also it was a full blitz. I forget what the play was called, but Overshown was one of the ones that was coming right after Spencer Sanders, and in my opinion caused him to roll out and bust that play. So really confident about Overshown's return and his just overall playmaking ability. And then if Ray Thornton can prove to be a disruptive pass rusher, and if he gets anywhere near 10, 12 tackles for loss, that's going to be awesome. So looking at a few of the key reserves here that we certainly can't forget about, mostly younger guys, but also another transfer. Delio Deowe is back. Remember, he kind of entered the transfer portal, but decided to come back. So I definitely could see him kind of rotating in and out mostly. To me, he's kind of in the same bag as David Benda. Been there for a little bit now, but kind of disappears at times, but at other times looks really good. So, maybe it's just a consistency issue. Maybe it's just an issue of getting some snaps under his belt. Other guys not to forget about: Jalen Ford, sophomore. Prince DeBora, I think, is going to be one of those guys that we're going to see more and more of as the season goes on. Just a ton of high praise from his teammates. Him coming in to his second year in the program. I'm sure he'll be classified as a redshirt freshman, but it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I don't see him at the jack position. I would say putting him at Overshown's position, but that'll be interesting to see. And remember, Overshown's coming back from a shoulder injury. He missed all of spring ball, so. Yes, he's got a full season at linebacker under his belt, but he still missed all of spring ball and the spring game. Of the young guys, I would peg Prince DeBora as one guy to watch out for, especially as the season gets older. I didn't put Jet Bush in here, but he's kind of a rotation player to watch out for. Can come up with some plays. Really interesting guy is Ben Davis, obviously the transfer from Alabama, former 5-star high school recruit. Man, he looks the part of a linebacker. He's massive, and multiple players, especially obviously on the defense, have said a lot of the same things about Davis as they said about Ray Thornton. Just brings a championship mentality and kind of a no-nonsense mentality from Alabama, which is really cool to see. Obviously, Davis didn't get the reps, playing time that he was expecting, and I'm sure there was a lot of. I haven't dived into a lot of reasons for that, whether it's injuries or just production. But again, a different type of mentality being brought to this one position group, not just to the team, not just to the defense, but mentality and depth for this position group. So Thornton, Davis, more reasons why I'm a little bit higher on this group than I was back in the spring. And then I'll also point this out. I've seen a couple of projected depth charts that have Ben Davis with the lineman group that have him slotted as the down defensive end instead of a linebacker. So, whether he rotates in there or not, I definitely think he has the size. He kind of has the same body style to me as Alfred Collins. Taller, just thicker, bigger, but longer. And then Terrence Cooks, the freshman, man, he's it's easy and fun to get excited about the young guys. But again, remembering that you have to go with guys that give the coaches confidence that they're going to be able to execute on the field, especially in the mental part of the game. And you got to allow the younger guys like Cooks, and Harris is another guy that I forgot to put on here. But it's easy for fans to kind of say, hey, where's that big recruit Terrence Cooks? Hopefully we get to see a little bit of what's in their bag early on in the season. especially in those first 3 games against Louisiana, Arkansas, and Rice, and to see how much confidence the coaches have in them. So those are my projected starters and what I'm expecting to see from the key reserves. If I had to pick one key reserve that I'm most excited about, it would be Dorba. So let me know what you guys think. Who are you kind of looking to really emerge from this group? How do you feel about losing Jawan Mitchell, Joseph Osai, and then does Ray Thornton and Ben Davis kind of give you some confidence that those holes will be filled adequately? But again, I still say the defensive line is a stronger group than the linebackers. I also think that this year's defensive backs are a stronger group than the linebackers. This group has a chance to kind of prove themselves. So that'll be interesting to see. And then who can step up and create chaos in the backfield? That's what I always like to see. That's my number one point that I watch for. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it out. If you're on the podcast, don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss any of the other ones. And go to the channel, go to the list so you can check out our other position breakdowns. And please leave your comments. I'll always love to see the feedback that you guys have. It's awesome. All right, see you on the next video.